This is the Hongqi E-HS9, a large 7-seat electric SUV and also known to be the Chinese Rolls-Royce. But in this video, we're going to find out, is it actually a good luxury vehicle? When I first test drove the Hongqi E-HS9 at its European launch a year and a half ago, I was very impressed by the interior. And now, a year and a half later, I've driven a lot of electric cars. I've driven quite a bunch of, expensive, luxurious electric cars. And I have to say, this interior is still equally as impressive, especially considering the price point. And now, even in Norway, where we have, taxes on electric cars in 2023, this car fully specced out in the top of the line with all the bells and whistles is still only about 100,000 euros or $100,000, about a million Norwegian kroners. And I have to say, at this price point, this is still a very impressive interior. And I'm going to just go out and say it. I think the material quality, the fit and finish, just the overall feeling of solidity and material quality in this interior is better than what you would find in a Mercedes-Benz EQS overall. Yes, there are a few places here and there that maybe, they could have spent a little bit more money on, but I also have that same complaint about that EQS interior. And especially here in the driver zone, where you're gonna sit as a driver and an owner, you have this airbag cover, which is covered in Nappa leather. You don't even have that as an option in the most expensive EQS 53 AMG. You have Nappa leather on the dashboard. You can't even get that as an option in the Mercedes EQS. And you have this beautiful wood trim and the gear selector. Everything just feels of high quality. It's nice to interact. It reminds me of, Audi switchgear. Also the stocks behind the steering wheel. Not the very best out of the very best, but at this price point, this is more than good enough and also better than what you would find in that EQS. We're going to go through the layout of the switchgear here, the driver ergonomics, and also the infotainment system in a separate part of this video. But I have to say, I really do like this interior, and you have a lot of room. These seats are nice and comfortable, though I do have one complaint about this seat, and that's the side bolsters on the cushion are actually quite narrow. I find myself sometimes sitting on them, and I'm not, the widest person. I'm quite normal or slender, and I find myself sitting on them. So I can't imagine what it would be for somebody who's a little bit bigger in the bottom section of their body. That may be a little bit uncomfortable. So sit one before you go out and purchase one. But overall, you have a lot of room here. You can sit high. You have this huge greenhouse, and even though I'm sitting quite high because to get that really nice view out of the front windscreen and over that large bonnet, I still have, decent headroom. I wish there was a little bit, more headroom in this car, especially for taller people, but it's fine. Just sit your seat a little bit lower. But that's basically my only complaint. And also front cabin, practicality. You have these two cup holders below here, and also you have a large storage bin here. But other than that, you don't have a lot of storage. You don't have wireless Apple CarPlay here, so you have to have your phone tethered, and you want it somewhere here in the vicinity of the driver. But yeah, that could be a little bit better, but you do have storage below here and also large door bins. But overall, a very nice and impressive, luxurious interior at this price point. Where this car really comes into its own is with the rear seat. And I have to say, this is one of the most impressive rear seats I've ever sat in any car at any price point. This is a huge car on the exterior. It's about the same size as a Mercedes GLS or a BMW X7 or a Range Rover long wheelbase. And this car falls into a very exclusive class of super luxurious rear seats, in something that isn't like a Rolls-Royce Cullinan or a Rolls-Royce Phantom or something like a Bentley Flying Spur long wheelbase. This is super impressive, and this alone, this here is a good reason to purchase a car like this, because if you want an electric car with an impressive back seat, I don't think you're gonna do better than this. So you can have it as a 6-seat configuration, which we have here. Then you have these two captain chairs in the second row, and then you have 2 seats in the third row. Or you can have it as a 7-seat, then this is a bench, so you have 3 people across here. But this seat configuration, you have a beautiful armrest here. You also have electric rear seats, so you can recline the seats like that, and you have these beautiful pillows that you also have on the front seats. And look at this space here. So I'm 5'10" or 178 centimeters. I have plenty of headroom here, and I also have tons of leg room behind myself. Look at this, guys. I can cross my legs. Yeah, I could do that in an EQS, but an EQS doesn't have this rear seat. This is more impressive than what you find in a Mercedes EQS. You can also slide the seats forward because, you know, there is a third row. They're mostly for children, but if you do slide this seat all the way forward, I do have, you know, this much knee room, so I can sit here. Then I can actually seat myself behind myself. Now let's check out the third row and see how much room there is there actually. With the third row folded, the trunk is huge. I mean, just take a look at this. It is so darn big. But to get to the third row, I'm just going to move this seat forward so I have as much room as possible. And since, well, there is no middle seat, we have a very nice aisle here. You know, the car's big when you can call it an aisle, like on an airplane. So let's see if I can do this elegantly, move backwards in the cabin. Yeah, it's a little bit tight, but it's not too bad. It's not too bad. And let's take a look at this here. So this headrest here just doesn't want to go up. The other one does, but okay, that's good enough. So headroom, yeah, I'm touching just, I have this much headroom, about 1 finger of headroom. My hair's touching, but yeah, I could, yeah, that wouldn't be too comfortable for a longer trip. But you can see I actually have some leg room here. So if I get my other foot there, let's see, I actually have a little bit of knee room behind myself, and even, you know, the footwell here isn't the biggest one. I can't move my feet around, but if I would have been sitting here, I probably would have just sit like this with my legs like that. But I mean, like, checking out this rear seat, yeah, I mean, it's okay for a shorter trip. You have a USB connector there. You actually have air vents here on the C-pillar. And yeah, you have these tiny windows, though it is a little bit dark here because there's no room. Oh, guys, look at this. You actually have a climate control panel there. Wow. I did not expect that. And you know, the third row isn't heated, but that is still very, very impressive. And talking about impressive, and also, by the way, I moved over to the right side here where the headrest actually works. And yeah, this is fine. My hair is touching just a little bit, but I could sit back here comfortably for even a longer trip. But okay, talking about impressive, today's video sponsor is very impressive. Zaptec with their Zaptec Go home charger, a small, stylish, sleek, and cool home charger that can charge up to 11 kilowatts on AC charging. You can also switch out the colors of the cover if you want to do that at a later time and point. Maybe you paint your house, maybe you buy a new car with a different color, you want your charger to match, well, your car, you can do that. And also, it's best in test from the Norwegian Automobile Association, NAF. So it's a pretty darn good charger. So if you're looking to get a home charger, go to the link down below, find your country, click on that link, and buy one from the links down below from Zaptec. Now let's take a look at the driver ergonomics and also the infotainment system of this Hongqi E-HS9. So starting off with the steering wheel, 3-spoke design, quite a big diameter, bigger than what I'm used to in something like my Porsche Taycan Cross Turismo, but this is a large SUV, so I think it is appropriate. The first thing that is really nice about, you know, this part of the cabin is this airbag cover covered in Nappa leather with nice stitching there. It really accentuates, you know, the luxurious feeling. And this is a part that you're going to see and touch and interact with every time you get in and out of the car and drive the car. You know, I've complained about this in Mercedes EQS, in Volvos that are more expensive than this car, that this is just plastic, and in some cars, hard touch plastic. So this is a real sign of a true luxury car. And yeah, a plus to Hongqi for that. But okay, let's take a look at the setup here, the layout on the steering wheel. So on the left side here, you have buttons and panels and scroll wheels to control the left portion of this driver display. You can see there. And yes, guys, this is in Norwegian. I do apologize. I know a lot of you guys like English, but it's in Norwegian. So you don't have too much functionality. Like you have your consumption, you have your tire pressure. Yeah, this isn't very customizable. This screen here is a 16.2-inch screen. It's nice and legible, this screen, but you have like this large dedicated panel and you can't do much. You also have a dry mode selector there, so you can select your dry modes, and also you can do a few settings with that button there. Let's go back. Okay, we have to, and then press there. Yeah, you can do some, you have to actually adjust the side mirrors with these buttons here. But okay, I mean, it's nice enough. And on the right side, you have your audio controls, volume wheel, you can press to mute. You also have skip forwards, quick backwards. You have your a programmable button, you have your phone, and you also have your voice commands. My only complaint about this panel here is it's very dimly lit. I think the light now is like at 80%, and I haven't set it higher because once it gets dark outside, it's too bright. So the auto function should be better. And then down here you have your adaptive cruise control. This car does not have auto steer, but it does have adaptive cruise control. We're going to talk more about that a little bit later because it's not the best one. But I really like the functionality. It works like with an Audi. You pull to activate, you press up to increase your speed, you press down to decrease, and then you push away for deactivating the adaptive cruise control. So really, really nice. So this screen here, it's nice enough, 16.2 inches, and then you have a 16.2-inch infotainment system screen there. And then you have a passenger display that is also 16.2 inches. And I'm just going to say it right away, guys. I think passenger screens are just dumb and gimmicky. And every time I have a passenger in a car, they're like, for 3 minutes, they're like, this is cool. And then after 3 minutes, they're like, how do I turn this off? And then they never use it again. This doesn't control the infotainment system. You can do media, and also you have a video function there. And from what I can understand is that when I sit here and it shows video, I'm not able to see the video. So if you have a passenger here and they want to watch a movie, that is actually quite useful. So I think that's nice, but why is it on now when I start the car? I wish that could be turned off. And then we have the infotainment system screen here. You have a navigation system. It's not very good. You can't find like basic places. Like I tried to go to Kristiansand on my motorway range test. Let's see if we can find that Chris. And look how small the keyboard is. Like, oh, look at all this real estate. The keyboard is also quite small. Kristiansand. Yeah. So let's see, collapse the display here. Yeah, so it can't find the town of Kristiansand. It can find like the university, it can find the zoo, it can find like Avis, Hertz, Sixt, Budget, like, and then like the airport, but it can't find like the center. And then you're like, okay, let's go Kristiansand Centrum, right? Surely it should be able to find Centrum. No, it can find Bærum Bysentrum, which is like a few kilometers away from here. Now it find Elixia. Yeah, it's not very good, this navigation system. And also, once you actually start navigating to somewhere, it won't show you the battery percentage you're gonna ride with. It doesn't have a route planner to, you know, tell you where to stop and charge. It's not very good. It has Apple CarPlay, but also when you start Apple CarPlay, you can't exit Apple CarPlay without pulling out the cable. It's only wired. Yeah, there are like a few strange things about this infotainment system that, yeah, it's not the best. It could be better, but it's okay. As long as you have Apple CarPlay, it's fine. And then you have the HVAC system here, and I can't actually find the size of the screen. And look how much glare that is. I can't actually give you guys a good angle, so I do apologize. I mean, they've done what Audi have done here, a dedicated screen. Also, Porsche do this, but Audi does it like a million times better. And to change the temperature, you actually have to like scroll with your finger like that. There are no buttons to just increase and decrease. And it's okay, it's fine, but it could be a lot better. Lastly, here in the center console, you have this really nice gear selector, feels nice, and also you have a parking brake here. So overall, I mean, the screens look nice. They're kind of nice to interact with. Sometimes this panel down here is a bit laggy and non-responsive. Here, the icons are just a little bit small. But yeah, overall, a weakness of this car has to be the infotainment system and just the UI experience. Now that I'm back here, I want to spend some time in this rear seat. You know, I've had this car for a week now. I've driven it a lot, and as nice as the front seats are, and also as nice as this is to drive, we're going to get to, you know, the driving portion of this video in a second. This rear seat is where this car really sets it apart from other EVs. It's an amazing rear seat. And you know, a lot of people have 3 kids and a dog, 4 kids, maybe 2 dogs. There are a lot of people who really need a big car like this, because a lot of people watching may be thinking like, this is just, it's too big, it's too much. And I can absolutely understand that for most people, but there is a use case for a car like this. And if I had, well, I have 1 kid, if I had 2 kids and maybe a dog, if it went on a lot of long trips, this would make a lot of sense. I have a friend of mine, they have like 3 kids, and you know, they had an Audi e-tron, and that's maybe just a little bit tiny too small if they go to the cabin on weekends. You know, they're also from the Western Norway. If they want to go there and visit family, packing the car, yeah, it's gonna easily get full. But talking about, you know, taking this car on a long trip, we're gonna talk about a few specs here. WLTP 465 kilometers. This being, you know, the fully decked out one with the big battery. It has, you know, a max peak power of 551 horsepower, but that is above 70%, and you have to put it into some like kind of boost mode. On normal driving, it's 480 horsepower. It's like quick enough. You don't need that, you know, 555, 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 4.9 seconds. That's too much. I haven't used that much. You know, I tested it, but yeah, it's enough power, this car as is. Gross capacity is 99 kilowatt hours. Net capacity is 90 kilowatt hours, even though the manual says 95 kilowatt hours. And my guy at Hongqi said, you know, referred to the manual 95 kilowatt hours. When I've done real world testing, yeah, it's 90. I think that 5 kilowatts extra is below 0%. And when we talk about net capacity, we're talking from 100 to 0% indicated. Yeah. So, you know, this car has a peak charge speed of 140 kilowatts. I wasn't able to see that. 10 to 80% in about 36 minutes. Again, now in winter in the real world, that's more like 40, 42 minutes. It's not bad, but you know, this is the weakest point of this car, is taking it on a longer trip now in winter at high speeds, because go and check my motorway range test. You're not going to get too much range out of this car in winter because it's big, it's thirsty, it's not very aerodynamic. And yeah, the battery is big, but you know, considering the size of this car, the battery isn't that big. I mean, 90 kilowatt hours net, this should be like 110 or 120. And also, this should be charging at 200 kilowatts. So, you know, that is the Achilles heel of this car. Smallish battery for this size of vehicle, being as thirsty as it is with kind of slow charging. But okay, enough about that. Let's take this car on the road, and yeah, I'll tell you what it is like to drive. If you're not used to driving big cars, getting behind the wheel of this may be quite intimidating because it's not small. I mean, this is like the largest electric SUV or largest electric car currently on sale. And if it isn't, please correct me in the comment section down below. I just can't think of any other car that is as big as this at over 5.2 meters long. This is humongous. And the first thing you're going to notice is that big bonnet, because it's so long. You have like this silver trim stripe on the middle, which is actually really nice because it helps you place it. But I do like the fact that the bonnet is flat. You can see the corners. It makes it really easy to place the car. And I've had quite a few big cars. I've had quite a few Volvo XC90s. And even though the XC90 is a quite bit shorter than this by like 25 centimeters, it's taller, as wide, and as big as in that sense. And you know, the length of this car isn't really an issue for me. You know, it has nice 360 cameras. It's easy to place because it's a big box. The issue, you know, with driving a big car is just how wide it is and how much of your view is obscured by the hood. Like hitting curbs or like maneuvering in tight places may be difficult for a lot of people. So get behind the wheel and see how you feel behind one. But once you do feel very comfortable, and you have this commanding view. This isn't the tallest SUV. I think it's like 173 centimeters, 174 centimeters. And you know, I don't think you're sitting any lower than you would in any of the competing SUVs. It's just that the roof line isn't as tall. And you can feel that, like if you've driven like a Range Rover, a big Range Rover, you have this big greenhouse here and you feel like there's a lot of room even though you're sitting high up. You don't have quite that same feeling here. So I think that's where they've kept, you know, the height, which is, it's fine because, you know, driving a big SUV, you have like, you want that big height and driving position and not having a car too tall. it is also a bonus, but I would prefer just a little bit more room in here. This being the signature or the exclusive, it's on 4-wheel air suspension. Even though this is on 21-inch wheels, the suspension tuning of this car is one of the best I have driven. And I think the suspension tuning here and the chassis rigidity is actually better than what you're going to get in an EQS. Remember, this is about the same length and width as an EQS, but you're sitting higher because it's an SUV. I think the ground clearance is around 20 centimeters. And you would have thought that, that brings, disadvantages, and this wouldn't be as good to drive as an EQS. But I think this is actually better. First off, you don't have, that jitterness through this chassis that you often get in long and large cars. I had that in my XC90. I've experienced that in an EQS, and this does have you have some vibration in the suspension sometimes. That's mostly due to the big wheels, the 21-inch wheels, because that's quite a lot of unsprung weight that you're carrying around. But you don't feel it in the chassis, and that is so impressive. This chassis, the chassis rigidity of the structure is really, really impressive, and that makes it also to the driving experience that is not only very comfortable, but the body control is impressive. You wouldn't expect it both to be super comfortable and also to have pretty nice body control. And don't get me wrong, this isn't sporty at all. It's very boat-like and very floaty, but it could have been much, much worse. So body control in check, even though it's super, super comfortable and you're isolated from the road. Then you have, NVH, like road and noise, very nicely suppressed. This could, benefit from being a little bit more aerodynamic, because once you get going on the motorway and you have some wind, you can really hear it off the windscreen. I still think that the Audi e-tron Q8 or the 55 is just a little bit, more quiet, a little bit more aerodynamic, especially when it comes to wind noise. But when it comes to road noise, this is one of the best cars I've ever driven. So if you can get past the size of this car, the sheer dimensions, this is a very competent and good car to drive on any types of roads and streets. But when it comes to driving, there are a few things that aren't great. Actually, possibly a deal breaker for me if they can't fix it with a software update. If they can fix it, I'll have to take a look at it again. But I think this is a huge deal for me. So first off, no auto steer. I've looked through the menus, I've gone through the settings, I've looked online. There's no auto steer for this car in Norway. I don't understand why. There's no reason for this car not having that in 2023. I mean, this is a huge, luxurious, and expensive car. It should have auto steer. And then you have the adaptive cruise control functionality, because even if this car had good, adaptive cruise control and didn't have auto steer, I maybe could have, let that pass. But I don't know how to say this. The adaptive cruise control is the worst system out there because it's so unrefined and not smooth to use. So say you're going on a motorway, you've set it to 120 kilometers an hour, and there's just a slight turn on the motorway. It's just a little turn. It's gonna lower the speed by 5, 10, 15 kilometers an hour. It's super annoying, super annoying. So you have to go on a throttle to keep your speed, because it's not like it's gonna do it smoothly. It's gonna apply the regen, so you're lurching forward. And you can see it here because this display actually shows the kilowatts regen going back into the battery. It's very, very bad. And then on top of that, there's a relay somewhere here around the steering wheel, I think maybe in the steering wheel column or here on the dashboard below, that actually activates and disengages the adaptive cruise control. So when you're doing this, not only are you lurking backwards and forward, you can actually hear that relay turning on and off. So it's click, 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 click. And I think the last time I could hear a relay this loud was Volkswagen Golf Mark II, from 1988. So yeah, that's just terrible. And for me, they have to fix that. It's really hard to recommend this car to people who think adaptive cruise control and auto steer is important, which I absolutely do think is important. At the beginning of the video, I asked the question, is this a good luxury vehicle? And yes, without a doubt, this is an awesome luxury vehicle when it comes to driving, the quietness, the comfort, the isolation from the road, the sensation of occasion you get behind the steering wheel, wielding this large SUV. Yeah, this is a true luxury experience. And considering the price point, I think this is like the best value luxury proposition there is anywhere in the market, especially considering the interior quality, the interior build, the interior ambiance, the sense of occasion in here. I mean, the room, the space, the comfort. Yeah, this is like unrivaled in this price segment. This is like a true luxury car. Like there's not even a doubt. And I've had a lot of luxury vehicles, and like the luxury aspect, yeah, superb. But an electric car, a car, an EV, like a transportation device, is often more than just one aspect. And this car has to be judged on other things than, well, just luxury. So first off, the exterior design, which I've chosen not to spoke about before now, isn't as, vulgar or as offensive as it was when it came out. I've seen a few on the road today. I've like seen 3 or 4. It's not bad looking. It just has odd proportions. There are like things about the exterior design I actually like the headlights. I like the grille. It's just, it has a little bit odd proportions. It's just the overhangs in front and in rear are just a bit too long, and it's maybe just a little bit too low. I think like slight tweaks would actually make this look very good. Like compare this to a GLS, which I think is awesome looking. Compare this to a Range Rover long wheelbase, which is just the class and style of that car is just amazing. And then we have the infotainment system, the tech, and also the driver assistance, which is a huge negative in my book. And then lastly, range and charging. But if you need a large SUV, you need 7 seats, and you want luxury, and you don't plan on going on too many long trips, you're not too bothered about the infotainment system, you don't need like adaptive cruise control to work flawlessly, and you don't need auto steer, yeah, there's no other choice for a large 7-seat luxury SUV in this segment yet, until we get things like the EQS hitting the road, once we get the EX90 coming to market, and other large electric cars. This is the car for you. Is it the car for me? Well, for me, I don't think I can overcome its flaws with the adaptive cruise control and also the auto steer and also the exterior styling. For me, those things have to be sorted out, but I have no problem recommending this car because it is an awesome luxury car. So guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please drop me a thumbs up down below. And for more car content, as always, please subscribe. See you guys later and goodbye.